Hey guys, welcome back to another mock draft. I know I made one like 3 days ago. It wasn't meant to happen like that. That's just, how it ended up happening, I guess. My bad. Anyways, I'm recording this on a Tuesday. Uh, it's just, I would record it as close to the draft as possible, but these videos actually do take a second to get up. And I just don't have time tomorrow, unfortunately. Um, this is far from a career for me, if you'd imagine that. But I've been trying to keep up the best I could with all the draft rumors right now. There's no rumor at one is pretty set in stone. Caleb Williams has been the entire time. I'm going to make a video probably on my big board. Right now it's about 350. Uh, Probably won't get a video on it, but I will probably get it to around 400 before the draft. But I just don't have the time to record a video, edit it, get it up before the draft. So I don't really have the time to go in depth into 50 more prospects. Also, usually I do this entire like scouting part, or I like run this mock draft before I click record. I didn't do that this time, so I might take a little extra time on each pick. The rumor at 2 is that the Commanders are going to stick and pick. They want a quarterback. I've been doing Jaden Daniels, but I saw some report recently about his agent being super, super upset with how his meeting with the Commanders went. I don't know if that has any validity. I don't know why he was so upset. He was upset. I don't know why. I don't know what happened at the meeting. I just know he wasn't very happy about it. Which, for that, I'm going to take Drake May here, just on a whim. I don't know. It's a coin toss between the two of them. Drake May is what I would do if I was the Commanders. He's the better quarterback, definitely. You're looking at probably, I think it's player number 5 on my board for Drake May and player number 12, I think, for Jaden Daniels. So it's not like it's a huge leap. And if you really value a running quarterback that can be more mobile vertically, yeah, sure, take Jaden Daniels. Personally, though, I think Drake May is a better passer, so I think he's a more polished prospect, definitely. His ceiling is definitely higher than Jaden Daniels. Sitting at number 3, the rumor with the Patriots, from what I can tell, is that they are open to trading this pick. It would take quite a bit for them to do it. From what I understand, the two teams that are in the running are the Giants and the Vikings. Knowing what the Cardinals probably aim on doing, I think it would have to be the Giants, but the Patriots' asking price apparently is ridiculous. So I think they stick and pick, and in this instance, they go Jaden Daniels. 1, 2, 3 quarterbacks. I'm going to keep the trend at 4. Right now, the belief is that the Cardinals and Vikings are kind of closing in on a deal. So I'm just going to stick with that. Oh, I clicked the wrong thing. Please forgive me. Propose a trade that sends Arizona's pick to Minnesota. I've kind of fought back and forth with this because they do have another pick in this draft. And if you want a receiver, you miss out on it by trading to 11. So who knows? Maybe they do just trade down to 6 or something like that, but I don't think so. It's just the report right now is that they like what they can get out of the Vikings. Which, if that's true, fine, go ahead. It's the only way you're going to get 2 draft picks in this draft class for it, or 2 first-rounders in this draft class for it. So I know the Broncos are actively trying to move. The Raiders have talked about trading up. The Eagles have talked about trading up. Obviously not this early. I'm trying to think who else. I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to make that trade. Obviously, this then becomes the J.J. McCarthy spot, which opens up Marvin Harrison at 5, which is very interesting. Joe Alt, I think the Chargers could use an offensive lineman, probably a little bit more. Let me actually pull up my notes. I'm so sorry. Just out of curiosity more than anything, because I do have each team's needs. I'm just not great at remembering them. Yeah, I think receiver is probably their biggest need, and then honestly, I think corner for the Chargers, but I don't think it's in play at 5. If you were the Giants, I think receiver is a huge need, other than maybe safety, but you're not going to take a safety at 6. Which again, Malik Neighbors being here, all 3 of these wide receivers are, don't get it wrong, they're all top 5 talents. Honestly, I think they're all in my top 5. I'm not going to check right now. Actually, I will. I will check right now. Yeah. Marvin Harrison at 2, Malik Neighbors at 4, Rome Odunze at 5. So it's super, super stacked. They're all, especially Malik Neighbors and Rome Odunze, are super interchangeable. Titans love Joe Alt, from what I can tell. I'm not going to overthink that pick. The Falcons at 8 is interesting. I could see it being a trade spot. But the question is, who do you trade for? You could just take Dallas Turner here. Just stick and pick. Worry about it later. I have him trading this pick a lot, but I feel like usually Rome Odunze is off the board. Which, if Rome Odunze sticks here, maybe you do that. I like that, yeah. So we're going to take Rome Odunze at 8 instead of trading this. I'm a firm believer that the Bears trade this pick. To who? I couldn't tell you, actually. I've done the Colts. I really like that Colts trade a lot. I think the Saints are a team that could look to trade up, but I don't know who you're jumping at that point. The Raiders could trade up to guarantee like Michael Penix, but that just doesn't make sense to me. I am going to do a trade here. I think it's going to be hard to come to an agreement, but I think that the Bears are in a situation where they really just need a trade. So they are going to trade with Indianapolis. I've done it. I'll do it again. Number 9 for number 15. The Colts aren't a team, I believe, that usually trades up. But I've heard that they really like Brock Bowers, and that's become one of my favorite picks, is Brock Bowers to the Colts via trade up. I'm going to stick with that. Will it happen? Who knows? Brock Bowers should be gone in the top 10, and it might take a team trading up. Now, the Jets. If you want a receiver, all your receiver options have fallen off the board. I believe they need a safety, not going to get it here. Guard, not going to get it here. Receiver, maybe you can argue that Brian Thomas is worth taking here, and I would honestly pretty much agree. I think it's a little bit early, but not significantly. I do agree that they have a need at tackle, but is it big enough for them to take Olu Fashanu here instead of trading down? When I do believe the Jets have bigger needs. It's hard for me to also say that there would be back-to-back trades like that. 3 trades in the top 10. But I'm going to do it, I think. I'm going to propose a trade here to have Arizona flip. Or not Arizona, my bad. Forgive me. To have New York flip down to 14 with New Orleans. So New Orleans goes from 14 to 10. Not a crazy trade. I don't know what else it would really entitle. But in doing so, they jump the Raiders for Olu Fashanu. Now, I've heard the Broncos want to trade up. I don't exactly know for what. The only thing I can think of is that they're trading up for a QB. Because it doesn't really make sense. I mean, they said that they would do a lot. Like, the rumor is that they want to trade Patrick Surtain in order to move up a ton. I just... Even then, I don't think you can outdo the Vikings offer for number 4. And I don't see them doing it, to be honest. Now, the Cardinals shipped their pick at number 3. They need a corner pretty badly. You could argue that it's a little early for a corner, and I'd probably agree with you. Which is actually, I think, why I'm going to pass on a corner here. Even though I think it's a much bigger need. I think Dallas Turner is the best defensive player in this class. And if you can grab him at 11, even though you do need wide receiver, right? And that you could argue Brian Thomas here. But it's a really deep wide receiver class, and Brian Thomas is not significantly ahead of all these other wide receivers like the top 3 are. You can argue corner. I'm not the biggest fan of the corner class. I don't think that Terrion Arnold or Quinion Mitchell, either of them, are top 15 guys, really. So if you can take Dallas Turner in this spot, I say you do it. Pick 12 to the Broncos. They still need a quarterback. They really still need a quarterback. I've heard rumors of Michael Penix in both the 12 and 13 spot. I just don't know. Like, it is so hard for me to stick with that. But the thing is, if you're the Broncos and you pass on him, what do you do? I mean, the top corners on the board, you could take Terrion Arnold or Quinion Mitchell. They're fairly interchangeable. Most people actually like Quinion Mitchell more than Terrion Arnold. I don't. I think Terrion Arnold is a little bit better, but corner is a big need for this team, honestly. Like, they really could use another corner on the other side of Pat Surtain. D tackle. I mean, you could go D tackle. A lot of people really like Byron Murphy going super early. I think I'm going to take Terrion Arnold. But I don't know, man. Like, I think some team does swoop in and take Michael Penix way earlier than they probably should. I think I'm going to do it. I hate the pick. Like, I really hate the pick. But I just understand that he's met with the Broncos twice and that the Raiders really like him. They've also met with him. They seem to really like him. If the medicals are cleared on Michael Penix, I have switched my board up a little bit. I think he's better than Bo Nix in the case of his... I think he's better than Spencer Rattler, too. I think he's back to my QB5 in a situation where his medicals don't play as much of a factor, which is huge. I guess his medicals came back good, but you never really know. Even if they come back good, I mean, it's too alarming for me to think that it's completely not going to play a factor. The Raiders, I mean, I think this has to be a tackle, personally. You could go guard. You could go receiver. Like, it wouldn't shock me to see Brian Thomas to the Raiders at 13. I don't think you do. I think it's a little early to see Graham Barton or maybe even Troy Fautanu go. I don't think it's that early. I think I'm going to do it. I mean, I'm not a big Troy Fautanu guy. I actually prefer Graham Barton, who I guess they have listed as center now. But we're going to go tackle. And I'm actually, usually this is a Fuaga spot at this point, but I'm actually going to pass on Fuaga for J.C. Latham. A lot of teams seem really high on J.C. Latham. He's been ahead of Fuaga on my board this entire time. I just kind of assumed that teams preferred Fuaga, which I guess, at least according to multiple sources, is not right at the moment. But, I mean, take sources with a grain of salt. You never actually know what's going to happen because smoke screens are left and right during the draft, and that's part of why I love it so much. You actually have no idea what's going to happen. If you're the Jets, this is a point where guard very realistically could fall to you, and you could be in a good spot to take a guard. I think they need wide receiver help, though, and I think 14 is about the time where I would expect Brian Thomas to go. I think that's what I'm going to do. Is Brian Thomas Jr. at 14 to the Jets via trade back. I like that. The Bears moved down from 9 to 15. I'm sure they probably would have been eyeing Thomas Jr. if he was still around. And with him gone, I think it's way too early to take Keon Coleman or any of those guys. I think their biggest need outside of receiver is center, and I think it's a little early for Jackson Powers Johnson, even though I do like Jackson Powers Johnson. This could be a corner, and I wouldn't be shocked at all. All the corners have stuck, which is crazy. But it could also be an edge rusher, because Liatu Latu is a great player. I think I'm going to take Terrion Arnold just because you get the top corner in the draft class at 15. It's a position of need. Probably you could see him as the best defensive player on the board. I would argue that he is outside of Liatu Latu being available. At number 16, Seattle, this has been a Jackson Powers Johnson spot for me a lot. Could be a tackle, could be a guard. I think you should probably stick O-line if you're Seattle. Talise Fuaga being around at 16 is really tempting. Graham Barton, if you really need a guard, him being available is tempting at 16 as well. And I do expect him to probably go in the teens at some point. I just don't know what team does it, because I don't really view Graham Barton ahead of a lot of these other guys. I think if Fuaga's available at 16, though, it's a little too good to pass up. I think you need interior more than outside. Don't get me wrong. But again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't really like George Font as being your, long-term option at tackle. I think Fuaga's a guy that you could put in there pretty early. You're not forced to start him day one or anything, but eventually, within a year or so, he should be the guy. And I think he has a higher ceiling than any of the guards in this class. So, him falling to 16, I think you should go a little earlier. Number 17, Jaguars. Center guard corner is what I feel like I think for them. Receivers also definitely in play, but not with the way the board is fallen. Center guard corner. I mean, this could be Graham Barton for sure. I also wouldn't be against them taking a center here. I also acknowledge the fact that some of these guys are falling, and it might be worth addressing. Quinion Mitchell being around is really fascinating here. I think I'm going to have them take Quinion Mitchell off the board. It's either, to me, I'm leaning between him and Jackson Powers Johnson, honestly. But I don't think Quinion Mitchell makes it to 20 or anything like that. It's not the biggest position of need, but it's an immediate upgrade. And he's probably the best player on the board. Again, behind Laiatu Latu, who I'm going to pass on here. The Bengals, corner's a big need. Do you do it at 18 if Quinion Mitchell's off the board? Honestly, my next corner is Cooper DeJean. I have him ranked above Nate Wiggins slightly. But Nate Wiggins might get drafted earlier just because he's a true corner. You don't have to question what position he's going to play as soon as he walks on the field. Receiver, too early. I don't really like Ted Karras being their long-term center option. I think you can certainly upgrade center. Which, again, Jackson Powers Johnson is really tempting at this spot. Like, really tempting. But I think I'm actually going to agree with the board here and say D-tackle might be their best option here. I don't know. Do they need edge? Like, it's so hard to keep passing on him, you know? Because it's such a solid option. God, man. Corner, receiver, center. But D-tackle's also a need. Byron Murphy's around at 18. I'm going to do Byron Murphy to the Bengals. I disagree with it being the biggest need, but I understand that he's a player that's going to go probably in this range, if not earlier. And it is a need for the Bengals. And if you view him as the best player on the board, take him at 18. Some people say that he's not going to go. A lot of people have him as the first defensive player off the board. I don't agree with that. I don't even have a first-round grade on Byron Murphy. I just understand the potential that people see in him, and 18 feels right. Going to the Rams, this is a team that needs edge help. Even though center's a big need, Laiatu Latu has no business being on the board at 19. The rumor is that he doesn't fall past 19, which means teams are pretty sure the Rams like him. He could go way earlier, though. I kind of alluded to it multiple times because he's just too good to have fallen that far. But it's not the biggest need for a lot of these other teams, I don't think. Coming up to the Steelers, corner, receiver, I don't think you get either of those things here, to be honest. I do like Cooper DeJean. Obviously, it's not a receiver spot at this point. So it's been what I'm praying happens. I don't mean for it to fall this way often, but as a Steelers fan, my number one hope is that Jackson Powers Johnson is the pick at 20. I understand that somebody like Amarius Mims is still on the board. Fuaga could still be there, and that might change my opinion. J.C. Latham could be there, and that would obviously change my opinion. If Terrion Arnold or Quinion Mitchell falls to this spot, that would change my opinion as well. But with how the board typically seems to fall, Jackson Powers Johnson is my favorite pick at 20, for sure, for the Steelers. They do not have a center on roster. So, the Dolphins, I'm torn between two guys, honestly. Zershawn Newton, or Johnny Newton. I guess he goes by Johnny. And earlier in the process, it was Jershawn. So, but I think I'm going to pass on Jershawn. And at pick 21 is actually where we're going to see Graham Barton go, the guard out of Duke. He's listed as center. I don't know why. He started at guard and tackle at Duke. I think specifically, though, he'll end up playing guard. I don't see him as a center. Which, for a team that needs tackle and guard help, I think that's a huge, huge pull for the Dolphins. The only thing that's a little weird is they could pick Amarius Mims here. I know the Eagles have wanted to trade up to try to secure a corner because they want a corner really bad. I just don't know if they do. Like, it requires a team trading down, and the board's fallen pretty well for a lot of these teams. If they want a corner, though, I'm going to take Cooper DeJean. I do believe, honestly, that they should focus on O-line instead. But if they're comfortable going corner like they say, I'm going to give them Cooper DeJean. That's just what's being reported, though, and again, like I said, you can never really trust it. The Cardinals up for the second time. They went Dallas Turner. The board hasn't... One of the biggest reasons that I'm against that Vikings trade is because I don't predict the board falling too nicely for any of the things that they actually need. Corner here, sure. I mean, that's what it's going to be, right? This could be Zershawn. I'm going to go Nate Wiggins. They've needed corner help for so long. So we're going to take Nate Wiggins, back-to-back corners off the board at 22 and 23, assuming Cooper DeJean plays corner. Who really knows? I think the Eagles, honestly, are a team that could use the help back anyways. They only have 3 safeties on their roster. You know, the flexibility of Cooper DeJean is super nice to have for a team like that, especially if you're not anticipating him being an immediate impact, which if you're drafting at 22, most likely you're not. So having the flexibility of Cooper DeJean is super helpful. 24, Cowboys. This has usually been by Byron Murphy's spot. Obviously, in this spot, he's gone. I don't think you hesitate with the way the board has fallen, honestly. You need tackle help, unless you want to start Matt Waletzko, which, if you want to, go ahead. I think it's very in the Cowboys' blood to just take the athletic freak that's still on the board in Amarius Mims, who honestly shouldn't be around at 24. He could go at 20 for sure. I'm very high on Jackson Powers Johnson, though, as I've stated. He could go at 21 or 22, to be honest. He could be gone as soon as 18, I think. Like he could be. There's multiple spots where he could go before 24. But that if he makes it to 24, that's a steal of a pick for the Cowboys. The Packers sitting at 25. Usually I feel like this has been Cooper DeJean. I think their biggest need is guard, honestly. They only have one on their entire roster, which I think you probably need more than one next year at some point. So it's hard to pick against that. Corner's in play, but not really. Tackle, with Mims off the board, I don't think either of these guys are super, I don't think anybody else plays into you. Troy Fautanu is a guard he's projected to play guard. He was a tackle at Washington. As a team that, in my opinion, needs tackle help as well, having a guy that is flexible at all 4 O-line spots, I don't think he'd play center, obviously. That's huge. Troy Fautanu falling to 25. I'm not a big Troy Fautanu guy, honestly. I don't have a first grade on him, I don't think, or if I do, it's very fringe, like right on the dot of late first, early second. But the flexibility is super nice to have. So him being gone at 25 to the Packers, to play guard, I would presume, is a really good pickup. The Buccaneers at 26. I feel like corner and edge is what you need here. Corner, I mean, at this point, Kool-Aid, Ennis Rakestraw is a guy that's probably going to go in the first round from what I understand. I'll tell you right now, outside of Kool-Aid McKinstry, my favorite in this entire remaining guys is Kalen Carson out of Wake Forest. He is my next corner, at least in terms of talent, and I think it's Kamari Lassiter after him. But they do like Ennis Rakestraw, and I've seen that a lot. I just don't think you can pass on the edges that are still on the board. I'm going to go Chop Rob because I do genuinely think he's a better player than Jared Verse, just a little bit. Darius Robinson's another name to watch out for. I do not like Adisa Isaac. Not a big Chris Braswell guy. Austin Booker is super solid. Sorry. We'll get to my big board video when it's the big board video. Now, going back to the Cardinals. I mean, at 27, the board for receivers played out pretty well. I hate the pick. Don't get me wrong. There is nobody in this class that I'm lower on than Xavier Worthy, I would say. Just comparatively to where his draft value is and where I have him, I think he's player 45 on my board or something like that, which isn't ridiculous. But with the way he's being viewed, some people have reported that he's going to be the 4th wide receiver off the board, behind the top 3. So before Brian Thomas, which I think is insane. I have So many receivers ahead of him. Adonai Mitchell, Keon Coleman, Ladd McConkey, Jalen Polk, Xavier Legette, Troy Franklin. All of these guys are ahead of him in my book. My next one would be Keon Coleman. He's the only remaining guy I have a first-round grade on. Then Xavier Legette, and then Troy Franklin, I believe. But the rumor is that he could be the fourth wide receiver off the board, and some team is going to overdraft him based on his athleticism. I don't think he plays that fast. I really don't. I think he's a little clunky. I think when he catches the ball, like the motion from catching to transitioning to a runner that's trying to get yards after contact just doesn't look very smooth. And he does not play nearly as fast as his 40 time. I don't think his routes are very sharp. Not a big Xavier Worthy guy. But I understand that some team's going to do it. And in this case, it's the Cardinals. Even though I usually think of the Ravens or Chiefs doing it, some team that has, an elite quarterback that can get the ball down the field, which, to be fair, I mean, Kyler Murray can. He's a sideline-to-the-sideline kind of guy who likes throwing to the numbers. So it makes sense, I guess. Now, the Bills. I mean, this has to be a receiver or a corner. I know the Bills fans will tell you it should be a receiver. I think it's got to be a corner, personally. But I get it. Like, a lot of teams aren't big on Kool-Aid McKinstry, and that makes sense. So I think I'm going to stick at receiver. And I'm going to say Keon Coleman. I have a first-round grade on Keon Coleman. I do really like him. I know public perception has gotten a little worse around him in recent dates for some reason. I think he might have just not had a very good combine or maybe Senior Bowl or whatever he did. I don't really look a ton into that, honestly. I think he should be a day one guy. I know you could argue Adonai Mitchell in this spot for sure. But in this case, it's going to be Keon Coleman. I feel like that's been a pretty common pick. The Lions. Guard, corner, linebacker is what I have for them. Corner, I mean, this could be Kool-Aid. Guard. I really like Christian Haynes. I'm a big Christian Haynes guy. He's a guy that I think should go in the first round. But I don't know if he does. So I think what I'm going to end up doing, honestly, like, it would not shock me to see Edgerrin Cooper go in the first either. But, I mean, we see linebackers fall fairly frequently, I feel like. I'm actually going to agree with the board again and go edge rusher. Even though I don't think it's their biggest need, I just think you're not going to find anybody in this class better than Jared Verse at 29. It's an absolute steal that he fell this far. It's just going to take a team passing on bigger needs to get him. And again, I do think Chop Rob is a better player. So, Jared Verse at 29. And then the Ravens are up, who obviously would love a receiver. And I'm aware of that. I do believe they have bigger needs at corner and edge. I don't think Darius Robinson is tempting you at 30 when you have bigger needs elsewhere. This could obviously be Kool-Aid McKinstry. And I think it's their biggest need, honestly. I really do. I think the Ravens should go corner. I just don't know if there's a receiver that is worth taking here. I really don't. I mean, Adonai Mitchell, I guess. I think that's what I'm going to do. We're going to go Adonai Mitchell at 30. I think he's probably the next receiver off the board, which makes sense. It wouldn't be shocking to see Troy Franklin. I know he's not a guy that's often seen in the first round. I just have a feeling that out of these guys that could get overdrafted, Troy Franklin's athleticism might. I mean, look, his RAS is a 9. Like, he is an athlete. Like, he really is. What? Out of curiosity, what is Adonai Mitchell's? Well, a 9.99. Never mind. Yeah, definitely not this spot. The 49ers. For me, this is either going to corner with Kool-Aid McKinstry or going tackle with Tyler Guyton. I'm going to go Kool-Aid. I do genuinely believe that corner's a bigger need than tackle is for this team. And I'm not a big Tyler Guyton guy. I don't have a first-round grade on him, even though it would shock me to see him fall out of the first round. But same can be said about Kool-Aid. So I'm going to take Kool-Aid at pick 31, which leaves the Chiefs up in a very odd position for them, I feel like. I actually think the Chiefs' biggest need is corner. Like, I really do. I think they need to address corner pretty badly. But there's nobody worth taking. Ennis Rakestraw, maybe. You can argue that for sure. A lot of people like him. Receiver, I mean, it's just there is nobody to take. Like there's been a run on receivers in very interesting orders, and I just don't think that you can justify that either. I do think they have a big need at tackle though, which is why I'm going to loop back around and go with Tyler Guyton. Now, just that is the video essentially, but I do want to get into some of these guys that I think could be good, and also some of these guys that I'm like really high on. Bo Nix could be a first-round pick, definitely. 6 quarterbacks could go in the first round, and I would not be shocked, although I think 5 do. Spencer Rattler is a guy that I really like a lot. Big Carter Bradley guy. I'm a really big Will Shipley guy, even though he's obviously not a first-round pick. Really big Bucky Irving guy, but same thing. Definitely not a first-round pick. Like I said, really big on Xavier Legette. Tight end, I like Cade Stover a lot. Or no, my bad. Theo Johnson. I like Theo Johnson a lot. Cade Stover is also cool, but tackle, Roger Rosengarten is one of my favorite tackles in this entire class. I really enjoy Roger Rosengarten. He's probably an early day 2 guy, if I had to guess. At least that's where I value him. Guard, like I said, I'm a huge Christian Haynes guy. And he could very well be a first-round pick. I like Zach Frazier and Cedric Van Pran a lot. The Granger part's new to me, actually. I didn't know that. Hunter Norzad is also a super good player. Defensively, Johnny Newton is a guy that should go in the first round, but I just struggle to find a spot for him, it feels like. Who else do I really like? I'm trying to give you another example. I don't know why I'm struggling this much, though. Big Logan Lee guy, actually. I really like Logan Lee. He's probably a day 3 guy, but he's a guy that I really do enjoy. Edge rushers, like I said, big Austin Booker guy. Mo Kamara, I really do like Mo Kamara. Trying to see if there's anybody else just sticking. Nah, not really. Linebackers, I really like Edgerrin Cooper compared to most people. Trevin Wallace. Tyrese Knight is a guy that I really enjoy. Corner, really big on Kalen Carson and Kamari Lassiter. Is there anybody else? DeCameron Richardson is a guy that I really enjoy. Cam Hart. There's a lot of them down the board that I think are just like the order's a little messed up because I really do like some of these guys. Like way down the board even. I'm trying to see if I could like think of an example off the top of my head. Al Blades. I really do enjoy Al Blades. I think he's probably 100 spots too low on this board at 280. Safety. I really like Cole Bishop. Cole Bishop is pretty solid. Same with Javon Bullard. Kalen Bullock. I really do like Kalen. I think that's about it, man. Just thought I'd give you a little bit of insight before I make this pick. Again, I will make a top 300 board, presumably. It's probably going to be a really eclectic video. It's going to be pretty erratic. I'm just going to put my big board on the screen and go over it pretty quickly. Just because I don't have the time to put a ton of effort in. But I think it's nice because you guys can actually pause the video and read my notes to see where I'm coming from. But anyways, again, we're going to take Tyler Guyton here, call it a video, which I like that. We can actually take a look at this one, I believe, which was my last one. Not a crazy amount of trades, or not a crazy amount of changes. JJ ended up going earlier. I took Latham, I believe, after. Yeah, I took Latham at 21. He goes way earlier here just because him and Fuaga flipped. Byron Murphy falls all the way to 18. Yeah. Anyways, I'm really excited for what's going to transpire on Thursday. I'll probably make some videos after the draft as well, which I'm really excited for. And again, expect other content to exist on this channel at some point. I'm just having a lot of fun with the draft season. I do hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next video of whatever I make.